So today is going to be all about figuring out where you want to go to school, which programs to apply to, and just really the big picture decision-making pieces of applying to university. So a bit of a timeline of how the workshop will work today. We've got about 30 to 40 minutes budgeted for the presentation, and it'll be in sort of a panel style. We have with us today Tim, Sarah, and Emma, and myself as well. We're all post-secondary students, so we'll be answering lots of questions and presenting throughout the workshop. And if there are any questions at the end, we've budgeted some time for Q&A as well. So a bit of a preview of the topics. We're talking about our stories when we applied to university and why we chose the schools that we went to, what we considered when we applied, and as well stuff that we've been up to on campus and extracurricular activities that we've been doing. Great. So a bit about myself. My name is 𝗨𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃, and I'm a second-year student at the UBC 𝗨𝗃 School of Business, and I'm planning to specialize in accounting next year. And so, as I mentioned, I'm in 𝗨𝗃, which is UBC's School of Commerce and Business School. And in terms of what I've been doing outside of just academics, I've been involved in the UBC Accounting Club, which is one of the oldest clubs at UBC. I think it's been around for over 2 decades now, almost 3 decades. And I'm the administrative director at the club, so I get to make all the newsletters and help with event hosting and all those sorts of fun stuff. So it's been really great meeting people and learning about accounting. And clubs are one of those things at UBC that there's so many different options and everyone can find a club that they can mesh with and really enjoy. And then 𝗀𝗃 is a student startup that I worked at earlier this year as an operations associate, and they connect people over food with their own app. It was quite an interesting experience, and it just goes to show that there's always work available for students, and no matter what your skill level or what your major. And as well, this fall, I'm TAing for a first-year course, which is really nice that 𝗨𝗃 and other departments offer these TAing positions to students so that you can give back to future years in your classes that you took earlier. Great, so why did I pick UBC 𝗨𝗃? Originally, I wanted to go into science. I think that was my plan during high school. I took all 3 sciences up until grade 12 and I was like, this is it. And then I realized it's maybe a little bit too hard for me, too complicated, too much going on. So I decided maybe refocus to business school, which I thought would be a bit more broad because I was a little bit put off by having to choose, like, do I want to do chemistry or physics or biology? It seemed like too specific for me. So I went into business because it seemed broad and it seemed to me like something I could get a job in too. And I've heard the reputation of 𝗨𝗃 as well, and it seemed really appealing to me. So that's why I applied to 𝗨𝗃 in particular. And some more reasons here is because, as I mentioned, business is diverse. You can go for whatever different specialization you want in business. There's a whole sort. There's accounting, marketing, finance. If you're more of the humanities side, you can do human resources, or you can even do real estate too. So the amount of options available in 𝗨𝗃 was really amazing, and I thought it was really appealing. And I wanted to explore more about the business world, and eventually I ended up picking accounting. And as well, UBC 𝗨𝗃 has a lot of co-op opportunities, and oftentimes they're specific to UBC or specific to UBC and SFU. And the school has a lot of great partnerships with large firms like the Big 4 accounting firms and other employers to offer good opportunities for students as they're going through their undergraduate degree. And as well, as I mentioned, there's a low barrier to entry. You really don't have to know anything about business to start in business school. I had never taken any business related courses in high school, and I was able to do just fine in business school. And as well, it is quite a prestigious program, 𝗨𝗃 School of Business. They receive a lot of funding from the university, and it's quite well known. So it's been quite a good experience so far for me. And I'll turn the page to Sarah now.
Hi guys, I'm Sarah, and I'm also a second-year student at UBC in the B+MM program, which is a Master's of Management and program that is a dual degree program alongside your bachelor's. So I'm studying in the Faculty of Sciences, but there's other people in the program from all different faculties here at UBC. So right here, some things I've been doing outside of school as well. UBC WICS is the Women's in Computer Science group, and I'm a part of their exec team. It's been really great way to get to know other people in my program, and as well be a part of team planning events and all sorts of stuff just like that. And as well, computer science and statistics. As I mentioned, I'm in the Faculty of Science for my undergrad, and I am a combined major student in computer science and statistics. And one thing I really liked about being a part of the Faculty of Science at UBC here is that you do not have to declare your major until after your first year. So I spent a lot of time in choosing my program, looking at all the different science courses I had taken in first year and kind of feeling out what I thought I might like to study in the future. And it really gave me a year to just explore all the different options before having to apply and choose a program to work towards for my undergrad.
And if I might ask, what drew you towards computer science and statistics?
So I really loved math throughout high school and first year university as well. And I wanted to think about whether I wanted to pursue math or something similar. And that's kind of where I landed with statistics, a little bit more applied math. Also in computer science, that was something I hadn't really pictured myself ever pursuing further, or I hadn't really had that much exposure to in high school as well. But throughout my first year, I did take some computer science classes and really fell in love with the way of thinking. And that's really what I enjoyed about being a first year student, taking like one chemistry course, one biology, kind of one of everything to figure out where I wanted to head after my first year at UBC.
Great, thanks for sharing, Sarah. And yeah. Back to you for why B plus MM.
Yes, as for why I chose the BMM program, as I mentioned, it's a Master's of Management program, and it's a dual degree program, meaning that throughout your undergrad, you take some of these business courses as your electives and then finish up your master's with another 6 months after your undergrad. And I applied for this program out of high school. So coming into first year, I was in the program. And I chose this because I knew I had a passion for science, but I also really loved the business side of things. And I felt that it was a great program to be able to kind of combine these two passions and figure out career-wise where I could end up and just have more options and opportunities as well. It's a really diverse program because my business courses are with students from all different faculties who are in the program. So art students, kinesiology students, and all other faculties as well. As well, I'm able to take part in science co-op as well as the business co-op program by being in the B plus MM program. And the master's program also has they call it a CBP, Community Business Project, which is a great way to gain experience and work with a real client, and also work with other people in the program and doing that through your coursework. And it's also a great program because, as I mentioned, it's another 6 months after you finish your undergrad. So it's a total 4.5-year program for your bachelor's and your master's, or possibly 5.5 if you take another year to do co-op or finish up your studies as well.
Yeah, 4.5 years for 2 degrees. That's really impressive. And so, like, what kind of job would you see yourself in after graduation?
I would think that a great way to explore where I want to head is through having the experience in these projects and co-ops, but I really want to explore where I can land in kind of in between the science and business world, more specifically within the tech industry. I think having that computer science background in any even in business related roles in the tech industry is really helpful. And I think I want to explore some of the possible careers kind of in that area in between my two programs.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's really good to have like diverse skill sets, especially with changing jobs and changing job market. So being able to have that like computer science and business is like a really good combination, I think. Great. So now we'll present to you Timothy Kung.
Hey everyone, I'm Timothy Kung. You can call me Tim. I am a second year at SFU, Simon Fraser University's Interactive Arts and Technology program. It is a very neat program. I think I can go into it a little bit later. So I guess we'll go to the next slide, keep the intro quick. So yeah, I am in SFU's Interactive Arts and Technology, also known as EAT or CIAT for School of Interactive Arts and Technology. Bit of a mouthful, so most people go CIAT. I'm also a part-time writer. I like to write in my spare time, so I'm in a writers club. And at SFU, I've also recently joined a game development and game design club, where we kind of meet up every Mondays and kind of talk about the different projects we've been working on, things like that. All sorts of fun, different aspects of that. And also in my free time, I do consulting for web design and web development. So people can come to me and be like, hey, how do I get a website up and running? And I'd be like, oh, you do this, this, and that. I can help you out, stuff like that. All right.
That's interesting, Tim. Maybe can you tell us a bit more about, was it the game design club? Like, what are some of the projects you've been working on?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So game design club for a lot of students is kind of this very large encompassing project that can span across their entire degree sometimes, so many years. For me, I found a lot more enjoyment in kind of building small kind of mini game-esque projects here and there. I've kind of developed some mobile app games in my spare time. Nothing, I've not published anything though, kind of just as a hobby. But yeah, I definitely highly recommend if anyone's ever interested in SFU, join the SFU Game Development Club. Very neat, very cool.
That's good. So any SFU student can join the club?
Any SFU student can join the club, whether you're in the arts, the sciences. I don't know what other departments there are, but arts and sciences are big too. Doesn't really matter. If you got a passion for making games, you're more than welcome to join.
Awesome. That's really good to hear, Tim. And we'll go to the next slide.
Yeah, so why CIAT? So I guess I should go off a little bit on what exactly is CIAT. So it is a interdisciplinary program. That's just a very fancy way of saying we combine both the sciences and the arts to one big mushy degree. But it's not very mushy. It's very, very, very rigorous. So we kind of combine a lot of skills such as design, media arts, and also interactive systems. So programming is a huge part of CIAT. We've done a lot of web design, web development, architecture, interior design. Is very encompassing. So what else is there? Oh yeah, right. So media arts. I guess I should break down the three major bubbles within CIAT. It's a very large program. So media arts is a huge focus within CIAT that kind of focuses on making animations for games, also creating virtual reality experiences and things like that. We also have design, which is more focused on the abstraction of design, which is a very strange way of saying architecture, how people think, and also how to build stuff with spaces and clothing and a whole bunch of very neat stuff. And interactive systems, this is the one I am majoring in or focusing in. So I can speak a little bit more in depth about that. It is focusing on programming. So programming for websites, games, and applications. That's kind of my specialty. So industry skills. Another big part of CIAT is that we are very project orientated. So a lot of the courses that you'll be taking will have you focus on building projects that will actually be useful in a real world setting. So such as industry skills, such as drafting, creating technical sketches, how to map out your thoughts and things like that. Very important. It is also very creative and career orientated. So there is a lot of focus and emphasis on kind of creating innovation within the technology field. And also this kind of ability empowers students to kind of get out there, step out of their comfort zone, and get kind of, unique with their ideas and put that in the industry. It also has a strong co-op program. So within 𝗨𝗏, we have co-op programs with large technology companies such as Microsoft, Instagram, and Snapchat. We also have partners with the game industry, such as EA and Activision are the two kind of big ones. Yeah, but otherwise, there's also a lot of indie co-op programs too, for smaller companies.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great program, Tim. Maybe you mentioned you were in interactive systems focus.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what drew you there, or how come you chose that as opposed to the other two?
Yeah, sure. So kind of a little backstory. In the beginning of high school during the pandemic, I figured, I have a lot of downtime at home. I figured I should probably pick up a skill or two. Why not, right? So I bought myself a programming textbook and I taught myself to program. And I really, kind of like Sarah, really fell in love with computational thinking and the computer science aspect of it. But at the same time, I also want a nice balance between the computer science and also my creative aspects, let's say. So 𝗨𝗏 was a wonderful program that allowed me to combine my artistic ability as well as my love for computer science.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I love how it's always like a blend of different passions, right? With Sarah's major and your major too. It's really great opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing, Tim. Awesome. Let's go to Emma now.
So hi everyone, my name's Emma. I am right now in 3rd year of computer engineering. So I actually got into a program called Track 1 Engineering during my 1st year. It's a special program in the engineering department where you are basically undeclared. And after 1st year, after you take your 1st year foundation courses, and that you get to know about the future opportunities from talking to teaching assistants or professors, that you can choose what exact discipline that you want to go into. And after my 1st year, I actually chose electrical engineering. But after a 2nd year, when I picked my specialization, based on my specialization, I'm actually a computer engineer. So it's very interesting. And from track 1, there are basically 3 core groups in engineering. There's engineering science, there's track 1, and there's the core 8. So in core 8, you have, basically your normal engineering disciplines like computer, electrical, chemical, mechanical. So you can either be directly admitted into those specific program or engineering science or track 1, and then you choose your discipline after 1st year.
Okay, so then you don't have to choose right away, right?
Right, I don't have to choose right away. And as another benefit of track 1 engineering is that you're guaranteed your choice of discipline after 1st year, as long as you pass. So if you're minimal passing GPA, you can still get into the program that you want. Whereas if you're not in track 1, say you're in maybe mechanical and you want to go into computer engineering, after the track 1 students take up all the spots, you're then considered. And if it's full because track 1s, then you won't be able to transfer internally. So I guess that's the biggest benefit of being in track 1 engineering.
Mm-hmm. Right. So how did you discover track 1? Is it quite well known at UofT, or?
Yeah, I got to know about track 1 because I heard it was track 1 and engineering science were the 2 hardest engineering programs to get into. And then especially for me, I couldn't really decide on what specific discipline I wanted to go in. I literally considered all 8 disciplines at one point, and so I couldn't decide. So I think track 1 was the best choice for me.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed is that choosing your major is like the hardest part of any program. Like picking the program, okay, you can see yourself somewhere in there, but once you have to nail down where exactly you want to study and work is quite a challenge. Anyways, let's move on to what you've been doing, I guess, a little bit more extracurricularly.
Right. So since I was in track one, so there's a track one mentorship program where upper years give advice to the current track one students, talking about our experience with, how we chose our discipline, and, just maybe just giving any advice on first year courses in general. I'm also a academic mentor for engineering, for working for the first year engineering department. So I'll actually be mentoring all 12 engineering first year courses, but 2 of them don't really require any mentoring. So technically I'm only mentoring the 10 academic courses. So that's just some resource for first year students when they need the academic help. And recently I just got accepted as a engineering student ambassador. So that is a work study program. So I'm working directly for the UofT engineering department, where I basically promote UofT engineering. I go to events, I organize events for the school, and I can have one-on-one appointments with future students, high school students that want to know more about UofT, and more administrative tasks.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. You're so involved in your major. That's very impressive, honestly. Must be a busy schedule for you nowadays.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh my goodness. All right. So awesome. Maybe why UofT engineering in particular?
So I think one of the biggest things that the student diversity, I actually, in my first year, I was so shocked by the number of people coming from different backgrounds, different, countries, or they study in different high school curriculum. I actually got to meet a lot of really amazing people, really smart people from around the world. Some of them are robotics team champions, and then some of them were keyboard designers. Some of them are just they've been really involved in other things outside of engineering as well. So it was great to see different people and see their hobbies and what they do. And another thing is that there are a lot of professors at UofT that have a lot of industry experience. For example, I remember very clearly in my second year, one of my course instructor was the software director at 𝗨𝗲𝗃, and another course I had the hardware director at 𝗨𝗃𝗃. So they were the head of the entire company, and they know a lot of they share a lot of their stories, or how they hire interns, or how they what they look for interns. So they give a lot of good advice for if you want to find internships, or what the working industry is like. And there are a lot of professors doing research, so there are ways to get involved with school and learn about what they do. Oh, and I guess that leads with the second point. There are a lot of professors doing summer research, and they will hire undergrad students, master students, and PhD students. So if you do get accepted, you can work with a lot of people, and you learn a lot from the upper years, and as well as the professor. And lastly, we have our co-op program, which is called PY. So we have, I think it's because of the location of UofT being in downtown Toronto, we have a lot of big tech companies, or I guess banks and things like that. A lot of them have their head office in Toronto, so there are definitely a lot of opportunities for U of T engineering students, and we have some pretty well-known partnerships with big tech companies like Intel, AMD, Amazon, and other big companies. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities for U of T engineering students.
Yeah, I mean, U of T is pretty much like smack dab in the middle of downtown Toronto, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and I have to agree, it's always nice when your professors are like up to date or in touch with the industry. It makes like a much more meaningful classroom experience, I think. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Emma. That was really nice to hear. And now we'll talk a little bit about how to find a program or university in general, and just sort of some topics or some concepts that we were thinking about and that we noticed when we were doing our own research. And yeah, so research is the most important thing that you can do. You can look up the university on their website, find out more about their programs, their co-op programs, and their work opportunities, as well as, obviously tuition costs, housing costs, location, and all these other sorts of factors that are really, really important to what makes the university good for you as a student. And yeah, we're just going to talk about some pros of UBC, SFU, and U of T, which are the three big ones that we can speak to today. And I'll pass it on to Sarah to talk a bit about UBC.
So why UBC? There's a lot of things to consider. Some of the main points right there at the bottom that is listed on the slide. And on the next slide, here's a little bit diving deeper a little bit into some of these topics. The first one right there, programs. As we've kind of talked about, there's a lot of different programs, specializations, and different majors here at UBC. Being a part of the B+MM program, I remember hearing about the program, and it's a fairly small program, but that's really something that interested me, both being a part of a smaller program, also how unique it was. That's something that drew me to UBC and the program. I think it's really important to do your research when looking at different programs at different universities in general. I know a lot of people here, even at UBC I've talked to, haven't heard about the program I'm in, and it really took some time to find and discover and do my research. And I remember talking to a few people who were in the program before applying was really helpful as well. But also keep in mind, even if you're not 100% sure where you want to end up, you still have time. Choosing my major, I didn't have to apply till after my first year. And I know in certain faculties as well, you don't have to choose until after your second year as well. So sometimes you have time to figure out where you want to end up, even while you're in at UBC or at another university as well. Some other points, tuition, make sure to compare your tuition rates. Different programs will also have different fees as well. So that's something that's important to keep in mind. Also, being here at UBC, something big is the location and the campus life as well. Right now, I am in my dorm. UBC has a lot of residences on campus, and as well, there are a lot of events for residents, students, or students in residence. And there's a lot of things on campus to consider besides the academics as well. UBC has a lot of clubs on campus. This past week was Clubs Week, so I had the opportunity to walk around and talk to some people from different clubs. So if you have interest, look at finding a group or a club where people share your common interest and see what the community is like on campus. As well, we've kind of talked about the co-op programs a little bit. Like Emma was mentioning, in Toronto, there are a lot of big companies here in Vancouver as well, or in the Lower Mainland in general. And at UBC, there is also the opportunity here to go on a work term abroad if that's something you're interested getting out of Vancouver as well. And because UBC is a very big school as well, our last point here on diversity, there's obviously diversity is apparent in many different ways throughout the different programs, but also just looking at different clubs and just in your classes as well.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there, Sarah. I just wanted to add a little bit of a personal anecdote. I was doing research for the solder co-op program, and apparently there's only like 100 to 200 students are in the program each year, but there's over 1,000 jobs that are posted on the co-op board. So just in general, I think UBC's co-op programs are always like really great for students to have like diverse job opportunities. Yeah. Now we'll talk a little bit about SFU, and I'll be picking Tim's brain for what he considered and maybe what he agrees or disagrees with.
Sounds like a plan.
When I was considering SFU and through my research for this workshop, a few of the highlights was the flexibility of studying at SFU, how there's oftentimes not a limit to how long you can take for your programs, as well. Just similar to UBC, there's diverse programs at SFU, just as many different opportunities you can go into, and sometimes programs at SFU that don't exist anywhere else, which is really interesting as well. And the location of SFU is really convenient for people who are living domestically or in the Vancouver area. It's really easy to commute to. And yeah, so a couple of the topics here are similar to UBC, especially the tuition part, because both UBC and SFU tuition are subsidized by the government for domestic students. So you can always just compare the tuition prices for different programs, and there's always scholarship opportunities, whether from high school or from other organizations or from the university too. Yeah, some highlights about SFU is that the school actually has two campuses pretty close to each other. One's in Burnaby Mountain, as I'm sure most of you know, and the other one is in Surrey Central, I think, and that's the one that Tim goes to.
Yep.
Yes, cool. And yeah, very connected by transit, easy to commute to if you live in Metro Vancouver. And yeah, as I mentioned, most programs allow you to extend your degree at SFU. And another thing that I thought was appealing about SFU is that you can register by semester, whereas at UBC you register by year. So in UBC you would register at the end of August for September to December and January to April, versus at SFU you get to pick by semester, and I feel like that gives a lot of flexibility as well. And the summer terms at SFU are fully fledged normal terms. But at UBC, you have to take accelerated courses in the summer. So in that sense, SFU is much more flexible in terms of when you take your courses and how long you take for your courses. And I don't know, Tim, which points can you speak to that you considered when you applied?
Oh yeah, you nailed a lot of good things there, Kevin. I'll try to add where I can regarding, let's start with the first one in programs. Yeah, just kind of reemphasizing your first point. I chose SFU primarily because of my program, which is CEAT. There is no other, what's it called, user experience design programs within BC. I think there is a relatively new one located at Emily Carr, and I think BCIT is developing one, but don't quote me on that. But I do know that UBC, unfortunately, at the moment does not have a full-fledged user experience design program. There's a club though, so for students who are interested, they may attend that. I believe the tuition's the same. Location-wise, the Surrey campus is very nice. A lot of windows. It's actually very similar to the, I would say in terms of architecture, is very similar to the John Knox secondary campus. So it is somewhat very familiar, a lot of wooden accents and a lot of windows. It is, of course, again, it is very connected with transit. For the Burnaby campus, there's a bus that goes all the way there, kind of like UBC. And for the Surrey campus, it's right next to the SkyTrain station, no busing needed, very convenient. Flexible studies, I think Kevin nailed that perfectly. It is semester-based, so it's very flexible. There's also a little bit of grace period too within the first week or so. So if you can kind of like do a little test trial, like, hey, I can take this course for like a week. Do I like it? Maybe not. Let me do this another course instead. It's very flexible. So you can kind of play around which electives you like and things like that. And co-op, again, also, you nailed that as well. It is a very great program. It is a little bit less competitive to UBC, I believe, but it's still competitive Don't get that wrong. There's a lot of great companies that SFU's partnered with. I know that there are also a lot of abroad programs as well. I know 𝗵𝗲s in particular, which is a business program at SFU, has an extensive abroad program that has partnerships in Japan, France, Taiwan, China, a lot of great places that you can kind of take a few semesters there to work on some stuff. And I know in my program, 𝗬𝗪, we have an abroad program in Italy called Italia Design, where you can spend roughly 8 months studying under some designers for various different aspects of design. And the size, it is, again, also very much smaller than UBC. In my program alone, I believe there was like about 100 freshmen or so. It was a very small program, the one that I'm in. And I'm sure that proportionally compared to UBC, it is very much smaller. But also kind of like what Sarah said before, I personally prefer the smaller programs and the smaller school size. It makes things feel very intimate. You get to know people a lot better. You get to know your profs a lot better. They're super neat.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Tim. I think
No worries.
everything you mentioned is super important to consider. There's so many different factors when it comes to choosing universities. And last but not least, certainly not, we will touch on University of Toronto. And yeah, so from my research again, I will pick Emma's brain for her opinion. But from what I found in my research, I didn't apply to U of T. So I did extensive Googling to figure out all of this information. But some of the main points that were brought up was, as Emma mentioned, the location of the campus. It's quite central, near lots of large firms and different companies. And yeah, it's like smack dab in the middle of the Toronto job market. And of course, hand in hand with that is the university's co-op program, which even if you just Google the university, that's like one of the first things that comes up is the work opportunities while you're at U of T. And as well, prestige of the school too. I think it's the ranked #1 school in Canada, which is obviously quite a good title for the university to have. And going a little bit more detailed, it's again somewhat similar to UBC and SFU, but it has its own Toronto flair. As usual with the large university, there's a variety of majors and programs, and there's something for everyone really. And I think U of T has a strong focus on high-level academics and just academics in general, with lots of research opportunities and lots of master's and PhD programs. And as mentioned before, the location has everything you need in a small area. I was looking on Google Maps and I was like, where is the U of T campus? Because it's just like, you would not know that there's a university here. It's just like in the middle of the downtown core. So it's really like literally next to everything. And yeah, as mentioned, it's positioned in a big Canadian job market. And even just as a student, meeting other students and professors, that's like networking opportunities to the max, which is really good. And obviously the alumni at U of T have gone on to many prestigious jobs. So there's lots of connections that can be made through the university. And as well, there's this ASIP program, which is, I'll speak a little bit about it. It's a specifically arts co-op program for the university. It's the new Arts and Science Internship Program, which is available for students who are entering their second year. And so it's a combination of 12 to 20 months of paid work experience, as well as professional development training. And we'll have, I think there's some links on the slide for more information about that. But yeah, just like the internship programs in general, I was really impressed by. And yeah, I don't know, Emma, what do you, any opinions?
Yeah, so I know for U of T engineering, there's also a program for first-year students to find internships. So there are definitely a lot of opportunities on the portal. And as a first year, they give you the help to find your first, I guess, internship. And as for PY, so our engineering co-op, so you have the opportunity to work for 12 to 16 months. You can work for one company. You can break that up into, 4 months, and you can work for like 4 different companies. So it's really up to you, and you get to try different companies and see what you like. So I think that was one of the key reason why I chose U of T engineering.
Thank you. And so was U of T Was it like your bucket list school? How did you like, what was your thought process there?
So I think, being really honest, one of the reasons why I really like U of T was because it was ranked pretty high up, and it was very ranked pretty high for research as well. And when I was in high school, I wanted to do research, and there like now that I'm here, there's definitely a lot of research opportunities just to learn from professors and also make a couple $1,000 over the summer. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful opportunities to learn. I think definitely U of T has some really strong pros and some really nice attractive factors. So thank you for sharing. I think we've reached the end of the content part of our workshop, and I should announce as well that we have a raffle for these workshop sessions for 2 $10 Amazon gift cards. So at the end of tomorrow's session, we'll be announcing the winners with the random draw. So we'll send an email out, so keep an eye out for that. And now we've reached the Q&A portion. So I guess if anyone has any questions, we're more than happy to answer. You can ask any of us our opinions or whatever open-ended questions you might have. Yeah. If not, yeah, that is essentially all for session 1 of our workshop series. So hopefully you all got a better sense of what we as students thought of when we were applying, and what maybe you could think about as well in your application journeys. And it's never too early to start thinking. So even grade 9, grade 10, you can have an idea in mind of maybe where you would want to go, or like what you want from school. So yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. I guess we can stop the recording now.